All right, this is the Ummagumma studio album review. Ummagumma was released on November 7th, 1969. It was produced again by Norman Smith. It has 5 songs on the studio, and those 5 songs are divided into 12 tracks or 12 parts. And I'll take you through those in a couple of minutes. And it's 49 minutes long. Now, you might remember back in June I did the Ultimate Ummagumma Live album review, and I made a post in the community. If you want to go back, you can go watch the Ultimate Ummagumma Live album review. But this one, we're just going to focus on the studio album. Here it is. Now, it sounds like a amateurish experimentation. There isn't anything fantastic or terrific here. And I'm going to reference Saucer Full of Secrets, the Pink Floyd Odyssey by Nicholas Schaffner. And I just want to read this to you. This is on page 150. The studio record arose out of Rick Wright's disgruntlement with the limitations imposed by playing in a mere rock band. He wanted the opportunity to compose real music. In quotes. Okay? So Rick Wright wanted to do real music, and this was the outcome. It's just, I don't know if it's real music. It's really experimentation, and it's not... I think there's more real music on Saucer Full of Secrets and More, even though there's like quite a bit of filler on More. But I let's not get into that right now. That's for the rankings. Okay, the album cover. The album cover is by Hypnosis, and I should show you guys the full package. I bought this. This is a '94 remaster. I probably bought around '95, somewhere in there, and it came in this one of these cardboard things. Okay, see how it says, okay, and then it's got the little window here. And then also what was cool about this is it came with this poster, which lives over there on my wall next to I took a scan of Pink Floyd Pulse, and that's where it hangs on my wall. Okay, so Ummagumma, yeah, I've had this for a long time. You can tell it's like damaged. The jewel case is cracked, and I super glued it. That just makes it cooler to me. And on the inside, on the flip side of the insert, you got the names, how they divided up those 12 tracks, and who wrote the tracks. And inside, there's pictures, just like the rest of the '94. The rest of the '94 remasters, and you can tell like now it's changing. So you have the blow up. Here's the one with David in the front. Here's the one with Roger in the front and Nick second. Here in Nick's third and Rick's way in the back. But as you flip through the book, they give you a different blow up of each one. And then you got lyrics. You got picture of Roger Waters and the lyrics to Grantchester Meadows. There's the one with Nick in the front. There's Roger again. And it's funny. There's the David Gilmour song, The Narrow Way. There's no lyrics to that one. He was quite embarrassed of it. I had to go to Genius to get the lyrics. Nick Mason there and Richard Wright. And of course, to me, Richard Wright and Nick Mason are the man. They're just as important as Gilmour or Waters. What else do I want to say about this? That's about it. Is there anything else? Hypnosis, Storm Thurgeson's group, and that's the insert. There's not much music to unpack here, honestly. It's solo work, so every member of the band did a solo composition or two, and that's what made up the album. Okay, and I'll walk you through that. And last thing, sheet music is very hard to find. I went to my normal sources. I have that Pink Floyd book over there. None of these songs are in the Pink Floyd book. I mostly looked at Chordify.com and MusicScore.com. I think what those are just guitar players that are putting down the chords and the notes. They're probably pretty close, so we'll just go with that. And if they're wrong, maybe you can correct me in the comments or something. I won't worry about it too much. Okay, so for the first track, the first composition is a Richard Wright composition called Sisyphus. That's Richard up. I don't know. He's doing plow or shoulder stand there. He's got his legs up in the air, way in the back. He's the one in the back. Richard Wright is the keyboardist for Pink Floyd, and especially in these early years, he was really important to the band. The song is about Sisyphus rolling the rock up the hill forever, which is an old Greek mythology tale. It's 13 minutes and 32 seconds. and it's divided into 4 parts. The first part of Sisyphus is 1 minute and 10 seconds. It's the whole dun dun dun, and then there's some drumming, and I think that dun 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 is like dun dun. I think it's on a mellotron or some other kind of organ. And it's only 1 minute 10 seconds long, and that sets up the whole song. Sisyphus Part 2 is 3 minutes and 31 seconds, and it's more Richard Wright playing. He's playing on a piano and banging on a piano. That's how I would describe the whole 3 minutes and 31 seconds of Part 2. Part 3 of Sisyphus is 1 minute and 50 seconds, and in Part 3 you hear Richard Wright playing piano and Nick Mason banging on some drums. There's some shrieking like in a and there's some guitar squealing similar to what you hear in the middle of Echoes, which is from like around 71 or 72. But it's not as good as Echoes. It's like Gilmour learning how to do those guitar squeals that he got really good at. You can hear it on the wall. And okay, so that's Sisyphus Part 3. And then in Sisyphus Part 4, this is the longest part of the song at 7 minutes and 1 second, just a shade over 7 minutes. After the squealing and the mellotron picks up again, and it sounds like strings, some birds chirping at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and then some cymbals crashing, and then it goes back to, after all the cymbals crashing part, the dun, 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 that comes back, and that kind of closes out the song. And that's Sisyphus. It's, so it's a long track at 13:32, or a long suite of tracks, I guess you'd say. I wish Richard, this is just me, you might love it. I wish he would have layered it more heavily with more keyboards. Because some parts of it comes off as thin. But the mellotron is really cool. It sounds like the string part of the mellotron. But that's pretty much the song. It's the scariest song on the record, and it makes for really interesting like campfire music or Halloween. Like right now it's October. It's great for October. Okay, but that's Sisyphus. The 4th track on Ummagumma studio albums is a Roger Waters composition, and he has the next 2 tracks. So the first one is track 4, Grantchester Meadows, 7 minutes and 23 seconds. I don't know how to describe the song without saying this is the song If before If. And he's like gearing up to do If, which is an If is a love song on Atom Heart Mother, okay? Which is one of my favorite Pink Floyd albums. And this is more of Roger Waters practicing alliteration and rhyming. He's the best at it. By the way, he's one of my favorite lyricists. And also, I'm going off topic here, but props to Roger Waters for his for the blog. He did like a YouTube video on Friday night. If you haven't checked it out, I have a lot of respect for Roger Waters. I just wish he would produce more music. That's all I'll say. Okay, from Genius. Grantchester Meadows are a scenic countryside location in the small town of Grantchester, close to Cambridge. Roger Waters, Syd Barrett, and David Gilmour all grew up in Cambridge area, with Gilmour rumored to still own a property in Grantchester. Okay, so he's writing. It's a song about where he came from. Okay, it's in I believe it's in the key of E major, and it's in 4/4 time. The song starts with birds chirping, and the birds never stop chirping until the end of the song. The verse is, icy waters of night be gone, this is not your domain. In the sky a bird was heard to cry. Misty morning whisperings and gentle stirrings sounds bellied the deathly silence that lay all around. Okay, that's the verse. I guess the chorus or the hook or whatever you want to call it, the part that's not the verse, but maybe it's a bridge, whatever you want to call it. This is where the alliteration and rhyming is really great. Hear the lark and hearken to the barking of the dog fox gone the ground. That's the hook. That's that. And it goes on. Okay, the song structure is really simple. It's a verse, that hook or bridge, or a refrain, whatever you want to call it. It's a verse, hook, a quick interlude, and then the verse and the hook. And that's Grantchester Meadows. Track 5 is another Roger Waters song. It's called Several Species of Small Furry Animals Gathered Together in a Cave and Grooving with a Pick. I call it Elvin and the Chipmunks. It's noises. What you hear in this track for 4 minutes and 47 seconds is a lot of noises, like beaver tails, like hitting on the ground, chirping, backward sounds, interesting enough, I did Beatles Revolver yesterday, but not the guitars like Beatles Revolver. By the way, this album is 2 years after Beatles Revolver, so this is 1969. Revolver is 66 or 67. They're doing the backwards thing, so they've definitely under the influence of the Beatles. Backwards Scottish chanting, breathing, gibberish, just that kind of stuff. Honestly, it's a waste of studio time. I mean, maybe it's not a total waste because he's learning, right? Roger's experimenting, and that's what this is experimenting. One time this song came on the headphones when I was sleeping, so like back in the spring of 2023, at about the 3:50. Right about spring of 2023, I was having a hard time sleeping at night. It was work, it was everything. I mean, it was just life. I couldn't sleep. I was listening to a lot of music at night. I was listening to Pink Floyd on shuffle, and this track came on. And it's to wake up and to hear all that is quite interesting. But I knew what it was. I've heard it so many times. At about the 3-minute 50-second mark, the Scottish gibberish comes back, and it sounds like Roger Waters talking. He's really good at it, and it sounds like, honestly, like he's talking to Elvin, Simon, and Theodore. It's cool. I shouldn't make fun of it because I do think it's interesting. It's not too interesting, but it's like fun experimentation. Now we get to the Narrow Way, which is the David Gilmour. That's this guy right here with the blue shirt. Everyone's kind of doing their own solo tracks, and that's basically what this is. When you think about it, it gave Yes the idea for solo tracks, and it gave Kiss and Steely Dan and a bunch of other bands, really. Track 6. Okay, well, let's start from the top. The Narrow Way by David Gilmour. It's 12 minutes and 14 seconds from beginning to end. To me, it's a little disappointing effort from David, but he's learning how to write music. He's great at writing music. He's not great at writing lyrics, and that's what they're discovering. Especially when you compare this to his later works. Sorrow or High Hopes are two of my David Gilmour songs. So especially Sorrow. They're just two of my favorite songs ever. Especially Sorrow. They're no comparison to the Narrow Way. The Narrow Way is not nearly as good. Track 6, part 1, 3 minutes and 27 seconds. Part 1 of the song was called Baby Blue Shuffle in D Major when they played it by the band in a BBC broadcast December 2nd, 1968. There's some acoustic guitar strumming and slide guitar. And Chordify.com says the chords are D, G, and D minor. But if it's a D major chord, that makes sense because D major, G major, And you can slip some D minors in there. It's not a big deal. Track 7 is part 2 of the song, The Narrow Way. It's 2 minutes and 54 seconds, so a little bit shorter than part 1. This is the dare na nair 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 dare nair nair nair, or so it kind of goes like that. It does that for a long time. Dare nair nair dare na nair 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 nair. Chordify.com says that part of the suite is in B flat minor. And then track 8 of the song is part 3. And it's 5 minutes and 57 seconds. This is the longest part. And this is the only other part that has lyrics. Part 1 is instrumental and part 2 is instrumental. So when you get to part 3, which is track 8 on the album, they're singing. So it's music and lyrics by David Gilmour. Chordify.com says it's an A major at 65 beats per minute. And it is really slow. I mean, I just listened to it and counted it out. The verse is 8 bars. And the lyrics, but like I said, the lyrics are not in here. I had to go to Genius. Following the path as it leads towards the darkness in the north, weary strangers' faces show their sympathy. That scene, they've seen that hope before. He sings that for 8 bars. And then the chorus of the song is another 8 bars. And if you want to stay for a little bit, rest your aching limbs for a little bit. And if you want to stay for a little bit, rest your aching limbs for a little bit. So the rest of the song is just verse, chorus, verse, chorus. It kind of does that pattern. And that's the narrow way. Like I said, not my favorite David Gilmour song, but it's not... it's okay. It's okay. It's not as good as Sisyphus. Okay, now we get to Nick Mason's part of Ummagumma. This is Nick wearing the really cool cowboy hat. Yeah, you can see him here. You can really see the cowboy hat. He's second in this picture, and he's sitting there with his cowboy hat. That's cool. Every man should have a cowboy hat. That's what I say. So the last suite is the Grand Vizier's Garden Party. I always call it the Grand Geezer. That's just me. I'm stupid. 8 minutes and 55 seconds. It's all instrumental, okay? And it's divided into 3 tracks. The first part of the Grand Vizier's part 1 is it's track 10, and it's called Entrance. And it's about a minute. 60 seconds. And what you hear is flute. I think I read somewhere that the flute is being played by Nick Mason's wife. Okay, and it's kind of nice. I like flute. I like flute on King Crimson albums. I like it on Steven Wilson albums. Porcupine Tree has some flute on one of the records. I wish there was more flute everywhere. But it's a nice, 1 minute intro. And then part 2 is what I would describe as the main part of the song. It's about 7 minutes and 6 seconds. And it sounds like Nick Mason is tuning his drums up and down. Like, if I sat at my keyboard and... What if I set my keyboards, I can program it to drum sounds, and then I just sat there and did dun 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 dun, dun and rocked the pitch bend up and down. Dun 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 dun. That's what entertainment's about. And so it does that for a while. And then and then there's some other atmospheric sounds, but not much else to report going on. And then there are some drum rolls, like you hear some of that. And then at the 6 minute mark, it sounds like Nick Mason has jumped on the drum kit to do some soloing, like a drum kit solo. And he does that for about 2 minutes. That's or a minute. Let's see, at 6 minutes to 7, yeah, about a minute. It's about a minute drum soloing, real fast. And then it segues into the final track, which is track 12, the Grand Vizier's Garden Party Exit, which is 38 seconds, and it's flutes. It sounds like more than one flute, and it's actually kind of nice for about 38 seconds of flute. And that's Nick Mason's The Grand Vizier's Garden Party. Okay, in summary, Ummagumma studio album. By the way, it even says Ummagumma studio album on the back. So I'm vindicated. I can do a live album mix and a studio album mix. And I feel like it's 100% appropriate. Let's summary. Ummagumma studio. It sold 1.5 million copies. Not too shabby. Now, if you're tracking me on the Beatles albums, they're selling about 1 million. Especially the North American releases of the USA and Canada, they're doing about 1 million. Rubber Soul did a lot. I think Rubber Soul was in the 7 millions, and this one here I happen to have it because I did this yesterday. Revolver had about 6 million, but 1.5 million sales, not too shabby. And I think anyone, I know it's a different era, but anybody would take that these days. Especially back then, they got paid on the publishing. Okay, 1.5 million copies. That's good for number 14 overall in 1969. Pretty good. And allmusic.com gives us 3.5 stars. Rolling Stone album guide gives it 2.5 stars. And for me, I mean, in the Pink Floyd ranking video, I put Ummagumma Studio 13 out of 15. That's fair. It's definitely in their bottom. I had it in front of the Endless River and more. That's fair. I think that's fair. You might like more better. I know a lot of the fans don't like the Endless River, but that's what it is. This is pretty good. I'll stand by it. It's not their best effort. It's in their bottom third or whatever, or bottom fifth. But it's listenable. It's at least listenable. Okay, next up on the channel will be the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper. And then after that, Chicago 2. I'm really looking forward to Chicago 2. I'm gonna have a fun time writing that one up. The Beatles albums, I'm just trying to work through them so I can get out of the '60s and into the '70s. Sgt. Pepper is a legendary album, so I'll write that one up next. I'll bang it out real fast. I'll get to it early next week, and then Chicago 2 will be later next week, hopefully. And I'm just trying to work through these. My day job gets in the way, and that's why I'm doing these on the weekend. It was actually really easy to do them on the weekend. I work on these at night in the middle of the week, and then I like to record them late in the afternoon when the sun's shining in. But okay, that's it. I'm out.